Hey guys, welcome to the third video in my Python series. In this video, we are gonna talk about variables and data type. So, first of all, what is variable? Variables are names that you can create in Python to store value. For example, here we are creating a variable that stores a number of students. Keep in mind that you don't need to declare variable type before using them, like many other programming languages like C or Java. In this example, the variable name is number student. The equal sign is the assignment operator, and the value of the variable is 30. In Python, the equal sign is an operator that assigns the value on the right to the variable name on the left. Let's see another example. Here we define x as 10. In the second line, we define I as the value of x, which printed in the third line. Now we can use the variable name to access their value. If you try to access variable that does not define, you'll get this error message, which explains clearly that variable name, in this case a, is not defined. Now, let's say we want to compute the percentage of males in a class. First, we gotta divide the number of males by total number of students. Next is to multiply this number by 100. As you can see, we get the percentage of males in the class, but ain't the best way to assign variables. And that's because the variable name should be more descriptive of values they hold. Now, this way makes more sense, as anyone would be able to understand this code usage. Along making descriptive variable name, there are a few things to watch out for in Python. First, you can only use letters, numbers, and underscore in the variable name. No spaces is allowed. You can start only with letters or underscore. Another thing is that you cannot use reserved word or built-in identifier that have other purpose in Python, which you'll learn about through this series. Finally, the Pythonic method of naming a variable is to use all lowercase letter and underscore to separate words from each other. In Python, there are useful ways to assign multiple variables at once. These two assignments can be abbreviated using multiple assignment, like this: x still 4 and y still 2. We can use this way when you are assigning closely related variables. In Python or programming in general, every object has a data type. Python has several data types that can be stored in the variable name. Here are some of the important data types. Let's first talk about numbers. In Python, there are two main types of numbers: integer and floating point numbers. They are defined as int and float. The integer data type basically represents whole number without a decimal point. The integer value can store both positive and negative numbers. Dividing one integer by another gives us a number that is not integer. In Python and computing in general, we represent such a number as a float, which is a short of floating point number. A float is a real number that uses decimal point to allow number with fractional values. Also, the float values can store both positive and negative numbers. You can check the type of any object using the built-in function type. Here, you can see the data type of number without a decimal point, and here with a decimal point. Keep in mind that any operation involving an int and a float always produces a float. Sometimes you might need to manually convert one numeric type to another, and you can do that by constructing new objects of those types with int and float. When we convert a float to an int, the part of number after the decimal point is cut off, which means that no rounding occurs. For example, 4.8 to 4 and 7.0 to 7. Converting int to float adds decimal 0 to the end of the number. So, These are the two main data types for number. Another data type is bool. Bool is used to store two values, true or false. Bool is an abbreviation of Boolean algebra, which is a branch of algebra. Bool is used to test whether the result of an expression is true or false. We can assign Boolean value like this. Make sure that the first letter is capital. Here it's not useful, but we can use comparison operator like less than or greater than to compare value and produce a Boolean result. Here you can see the full list of comparison operators. In addition of comparison operator, these logical operations are very useful when working with Boolean value. And evaluate if both sides is true, or evaluate if one side at least is true, not inverse a Boolean type. Here an example. The number of students is less than 40 and higher than 20, so the result will be true because the two condition is true. Python or programming in general involves more than number. There may be situations where you need to work with text. To work with text in Python, you need to use a string. A string is a sequence of character, number or letter. You can create a string with single, double or even triple quotes, where will equally run the same way. In our example, we assign 3 string literals to A, B and C variables, and we print them to the console, and we get the output light. Strings in Python are delimited by single or double quote characters. But what if I wanted to display quotes, for example in a direct speech? There are two basic ways to do this. We use the backslash character to escape additional quotes. Normally, the double quote character is used to delimit a string literal. However, when escaped, the original meaning is suppressed. It appears as a normal character and can be used within a string literal. The second way is to use quotes within quotes, is to mix single and double quotes together. String can use some of the arithmetic operator, like plus and asterisk. The asterisk operator repeats the string n times, in our case 5 times. Two string literals next to each other are automatically concatenated. We can also use the plus operator to merge two or more strings together. A useful function that built into Python is len. The len function calculates the length of character in a string, or the length of the other sequence type in general. The white characters are also counted. Len used the same way print used, which take a value between parentheses, but then it returns the length of the character. Here the len function returns the output 5, which is stored in the variable name, then printed. Note that you can only use asterisk between string and integer, but you can't use, for example, plus or minus or any operator else, because they have different type. If you try to use plus sign between string and integer or float, you will get this error message, which explains that you can't use this operand between int and string, or float and string. If you want, for example, merge int or float with a string, you can convert the integer or float value to string using string function that convert any object to string type. So, this is all for our video. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe. In the next video we are going to explain the other data types. But until then, enjoy Python!